Hello and welcome to the Film Pulse podcast. This is episode number 330. My name is Adam Patterson. With me today we got Kevin Rakestraw. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, what's up?
Not a whole lot. Just enjoying our big World Cup win today.
That's right.
Very exciting.
Now we got the Gold Cup final tonight.
Yep. That's what, against Mexico?
Yep.
Yeah. That's pretty exciting too. Not as exciting as the World Cup. I'm going to be honest with you, but
no, definitely not.
Very exciting stuff. I enjoyed myself watching this.
Yes, it's good stuff. Is that what we're reviewing?
Reviewing 2019 World Cup. No, we're not going to be doing that this week. This is a movie show.
Gotcha.
We will be reviewing Ari Aster's Midsommar this week. We'll also be talking about something we're watching on the watch list and going over this week's new releases in theaters, VOD, and Blu-ray. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah,
Remember,
thanks.
You can review us on iTunes. That would be much appreciated. I have no housekeeping this week.
Nice.
We're going to try to get Ryan. We're going to wrangle Ryan, try to get him.
It's going to be a lot easier now that the soccer after today. Because today you had Women's World Cup final, and then you had the Copa America final at 4, and then the Gold Cup final at 9 o'clock tonight. So Ryan is he's locked in for soccer all day. And hopefully after today, we'll get him back.
Yeah. With that, I think we can jump into our review. We're talking about Midsommar. As I said, this is written and directed by Ari Aster. I have a synopsis here. A couple travels to Sweden to visit a rural hometown's fabled midsummer festival. What begins as an idyllic retreat quickly devolves into an increasingly violent and bizarre competition at the hands of a pagan cult. I have a review for this up on the site, so we'll start with you, Kevin. What did you think of Midsommar? Now, before I let you start answering, let's try to keep at least the beginning part spoiler free. If we do need to go into spoilers, we'll give a warning, and then we'll probably tack it on at the end of the show.
First off, I would say I think it's kind of hard to spoil this movie because it's pretty predictable straight from the outset.
Well,
like the actual visuals of some things are still going to be, still going to catch you off guard. But like,
right. I mean, it's pretty obvious that it's a group of people that are dealing with the cult, but the things that happen, especially in the final act, I don't know how predictable.
Oh boy,
those elements are.
The very end.
No, I'm talking about as far if you haven't seen the movie. I mean, obviously, they allude to what is going to happen in the movie itself. But if you've only seen the trailer, I don't know how predictable it could be.
Well, yeah, I guess that should come back to. I don't know if that's if that comes down to seeing so many movies that I kind of had this idea going into it, hoping that it wouldn't be that, but then it ended up being that. So I was a bit disappointed. But I will say this one's kind of tough for me because in a lot of ways it's better than Hereditary, which is a movie that I didn't quite enjoy that much. And a good amount of ways it's better than that. But at one integral way, it's far worse, which bummed me out. Because if you remember, the thing that excited me most about Hereditary was the ending and how it just went completely off the rails and it just got completely insane. And I kind of held on to that. Like, that was my shining light. I was like, oh, if he can develop that would be great. Like, if you could make a movie with that kind of energy pulsing throughout, now we're talking. But Midsommar doesn't have that anywhere, which I found disappointing.
Well, it's structured in a similar way to Hereditary, right? Where it is a very slow build up with these kind of accents here and there of shocking moments, and then there's a big like denouement at the end, right? Where that's when it gets crazy. It's similar to Hereditary in that regard. And it's also similar to Hereditary in the theming of this. You know, it's a movie about grief and loss. But the one added element of this one is that it's very heavily focused on the ending of a relationship as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just it didn't have that insanity that I was hoping for. It's Midsommar, the culminating event that we were building up to was, I found very, very tame. And it was kind of a bummer. Gotta say. It's a little bit of a bummer.
I don't know if I found it to be tame per se, but it wasn't like completely batshit.
Yes. I mean, Hereditary, I mean, there's a particular scene, an occurrence in that ending that just sticks with you, where it's like, I don't know if I saw that in a movie before. Where here with Midsommar, you're like, yeah, I've seen this a lot of times before. For
me, the most shocking moment of Midsommar didn't happen at the end. It was something that happened
the first day of the festival.
Yeah. Or was it the second day? Was it the
I think that was the day they kicked it. That was like the first official day.
Okay. Yeah, you might be right. So like the day that they arrived was just them like preparing, and then the next day was like the first official day. That was to me that was the most shocking thing, and because it was something that like you totally knew that was going to happen, but
yes,
it still managed to like shock me when it did happen.
And I think that mostly comes down to his insistence on showing that just, you know, in a still camera.
Yeah.
It doesn't go, you just see it all.
Yeah.
Which I think he relies a bit too much on that for shock.
I suspected you were going to have a problem with that because I remember you also had a problem with that in Hereditary, where he forces you to confront, you know, the horrible things that are happening on screen.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have a problem with that.
I mean, it's not a huge problem for me. I just think it's a tiny bit of a crutch for him. At least that's the way I see it. Now, what I will say, because I don't want to be completely negative here, because this is one of those movies that's kind of difficult for me because it's kind of like right down the middle, where a lot of the technical aspects of this movie I think are incredible. Like the production design, the art team behind this movie. I mean, are you kidding me? Like the work that they put into this is just incredible.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous film.
I mean, like the architecture, the costuming, the sets. I mean, like everything is just, I mean, immaculate.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it's a beautiful film in a lot of ways. The use of color, the use of sunlight, everything is just bathed in bright colors, and I think that really aids in the atmosphere of the movie. It's funny how it's a movie that's so bright and colorful, but is constantly evoking this dread in you, where you're just like, this is not right. Something's not right here. Something's gonna happen.
Well, I think, and I mean that's kind of the coming down to the predictable thing. Is like, you know, that going in, like it's a folk horror movie, right? And you're talking about this. I don't even know if I would consider them a cult. This is more of like a long lost culture that's like kind of stuck in the olden days. So you know that what they're doing is going to be kind of gruesome. And you just know that going in. Like as soon as they get there, you're just like, well, terrible shit's going to happen, because if not, this movie wouldn't exist. And I think the thing that kind of disappointed me is that it's a lot of the same things that you see in other folk horror movies, where there's this, you know, it's a midsummer festival, so it's all about the crops, and you got to do certain things to make sure those crops grow.
Yep. Circle of life and all that.
Yep.
Mother Nature.
And I just, you never trust anyone or a group of people that are just like happy all the time. That should always be your first red flag.
They're filled with too much joy.
If they're too happy, if they're always happy, something's fucking wrong. Okay? That's not right.
I mean, I know that if I were to get out of the car, when they first arrived and saw that, or maybe not when they first arrived, but when they first went to like the actual like village proper, and they were meeting everybody and stuff, and I would just see all the red flags, but
nope. And
there was a certain naivete with these characters, though. Like they too often, and I mean, I think that they even say it at one point that they just try to rationalize everything that's happening by it's their culture,
Yeah. Well, and I think too is that was one way of kind of justifying that is to making them, PhD students doing like this. They're on their little anthropological. So it makes sense that they're there and that they're not going to leave because this is kind of like a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, if you were the other, like, I don't understand the British couple, because if you walk, I don't know what they were. I don't think they were PhD students, but I'm pretty sure if I walked in and I saw that, I'm like, well, I'm not here for work, so I'm leaving. This is fucking weird.
Well, I mean, they pretty quickly were like, nope. There was a lot of humor in this too that I didn't quite expect. I mean, there was a fair amount of humor in Hereditary too, so I guess I don't know why I wasn't expecting that, but there was a lot of intentionally funny moments that evoked a lot of nervous laughter from my audience.
Yeah.
Which I definitely appreciated that. There's a lot of little just subtle things in this too. I mean, especially when the festival was like when they were deep in the festival and things started to go really downhill where they would like add those kind of distortions to the camera where things were like subtly being distorted and like kind of pulsating. Like you had all the flowers that were just like moving and pulsating.
Yeah.
And then you had a lot of there were several fourth wall breaks too. I don't know if you noticed that when characters would look directly at the camera. And I thought
I did notice that.
Yeah. I found that to be somewhat disturbing and effective as well. But going back to the visuals, I thought everything looked really incredible. I thought the cinematography was really good. I mean, I thought a really great transitional scene is you see it in the trailer when she's going into, I think she was in her apartment and it transitioned from her going into the bathroom in her apartment into the airplane.
Yes.
In the beginning. Yeah. Like I thought that shot was just really excellently done. But I thought that all the camera work was really solid in this as well.
I pretty much enjoyed all the cinematography. Some of that the effects work with the psychedelic. I thought it was a bit much. I did like the flower stuff. But when they had like the entire, like everything kind of like swirling a little bit, it's just like, I get it. They're on drugs.
Yeah, I mean, I could have probably done without that, but that's more so just me not. I mean, I've said it before on the show. I usually don't like drug trip scenes in movies because I don't know why they frustrate me for some reason because I feel like they don't add much to the narrative. But
yeah, I think that, and the thing that gets me is it's always an opportunity to just do whatever the fuck you want to do, right? Because they're on drugs. It's time to just get freaky with it. But it's always a disappointment. Like, no one ever does anything that I'm like, holy shit, that was incredible. It's just like goofy shit. We're like, oh, it swirls a little bit. Check that out. Just like, that's it? Come on. Could have literally done anything.
My favorite drug trip scene of the year was still in Booksmart when they turned into the Barbie dolls.
See, there you go. Get creative with it. Do weird stuff. You can do whatever you want. It's movies.
Yeah, just go hog wild. Performances I thought were great across the board. Florence Pugh was incredible, I thought.
Yes.
I thought she just murdered that performance. She was so good.
Yeah, she does the majority of the work here.
Yeah, which is by design, I believe.
Yes. Yeah, because that's pretty much her life. I think that kind of ties into the relationship thing. Which I gotta just say, first off, I agree with you. I enjoyed all the performances. I thought, the Jack Rayner, like, it's not necessarily a bad performance. I just think his character is like a complete nothing of a person. And I think it was pretty intentional. I think they just went a bit too far with it. But the thing that got me is, like, for the majority of the movie, I was thinking that this was like some young relationship, and he was just kind of stuck in it because, bad stuff happened. He was thinking about getting out. But then when they're at the festival and it turns out they've been together 4 years.
Yeah.
It's just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, holy shit.
Yeah, it was not a good relationship.
No, but the thing, awful. Like, he's a waste of a human being. But, like, he literally did nothing.
The thing I liked about it, though, was that it felt like a realistic relationship where there wasn't anything that was so egregious where you're just like, why are they together? It's like a lot of little things, and like these two should not be together. They're not a good fit. But it wasn't anything like he wasn't like beating her or anything like that. It was just a lot of little subtle things.
It wasn't necessarily subtle. He just had a complete and utter disregard for it. Because it's not only just his relationship with her. Think of his relationship with his buddies. Like, he didn't do anything for these guys. And then at one point, for whatever reason, he's just like, hey, I'm going to do my thesis on this too.
Yeah, and he totally stole.
And that guy's just like, what?
Yeah, he totally stole his friend's thesis. He's not a good guy.
No, he's just like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do now.
But you can tell that he cares about Florence Pugh's character, Danny. It's just that a lot of the stuff he does feels like total minimum effort. Like he's feeling like, oh, I should be consoling her right now, so let me go ahead and do that.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You can't in one breath say that he cares about her, and then in the other breath say that he has to like try to like talk himself into doing the fucking bare minimum. Like, if you actually cared, you wouldn't have to say. That's like saying that, like, I have to remind myself to breathe. Like, you should just be able to, like, oh wow, something terrible happened to her. I should console her and empathize with her at the very minimum. Like, he shouldn't have to he shouldn't have to make a case for himself to be doing. And the worst part is he realizes that, knows that, and he's still like, I'm not gonna do it though.
And then of course you have Will Poulter's character as Mark, who is an even bigger douche. Also, I believe by design.
Yes.
He's sort of the comic relief of the group.
Which, him and the Christian character, the Jack Rayner, they both did not seem like anthropologists working on their doctorates.
Well, I don't think Mark was. I think he was just there for a good time.
Okay.
I don't know if I don't know if they were in the same, if they had the same major or what, but he didn't seem to have any idea what was going on. Was just there to party and try to hook up with weird, religious people. Getting back to the style, I loved all the costuming, the like kind of flower wreaths and the copious amounts of runes and symbols that were everywhere that I believe were pulled from various different like European folk tales and things. I thought that I mean, even though this is like a fictitious religion, I thought that it felt very authentic.
Oh yeah, you can definitely tell he put he put a lot of time into researching that stuff because it doesn't just feel like cobbled together or anything like that, just made up on the spot. Like it feels like there's a history there.
Any other non-spoiler? Do you want to discuss any spoilers?
Just one, I think, just because I'm curious to see what your thoughts are.
Okay, so let's go ahead and give this a score now, and then we'll do a spoiler discussion and put it at the end of the show. So I gave Midsommar, I believe, an 8 out of 10.
Watch out.
I was very taken with this movie. I this is a movie that like it just stuck with me like long after I saw it. I just 8.5 actually. I gave it an 8.5.
Oh,
yeah.
Are you sticking with the 8.5?
Yeah. This is a movie that I can't wait to see this again. It has a pretty long runtime, but I did not feel the runtime at all.
I did. Felt it.
I wasn't bothered by it at all.
I felt it in my bones. It fucked my back up.
I predicted that you weren't going to be as high on this as I was.
I think it also comes down now to just like a comfort level, because like theater seats just fuck up my back. So anytime, so I think that gets introduced at about like an hour and 45 minutes, right, or so. Like I start feeling in my back, like, God damn it. Good. And now I'm kind of like, I'm wanting you to end your movie. So I'm kind of hoping for it to be over, and he just keeps going. So it might not, I mean, it's not entirely his fault. It's mostly my back just starting to make, kind of makes me a little pissy.
Oh, man.
Because then I start nitpicking everything because I'm like, this doesn't need to be here. You could have cut that shit out of there. That's 6 minutes gone.
All right. What are you going to give Midsommar out of 10?
I'm going to give it 6.5. And I got to say, because I think I touched on it a little bit, but the flower work in this movie, oh, man.
Yeah. I kind of suspected you were going to like the flower work.
Oh, I'm a flower guy. You know me.
Lots of really great floral arrangements in this.
Oh, my God. It's incredible. So good.
All right.
That's what I'm saying. Everyone that did the art and the production, all that shit, incredible work.
That is Midsommar. Stay tuned to the end of the show for a quick spoiler discussion. All right, let's talk about someone we've been watching on the watch list. I've been seeing a lot of stuff. So if you go to the website right now, we're covering the New York Asian Film Festival. We have Japan Cuts that's starting very shortly, and then I'll also be covering Montreal's Fantasia Fest this year, and that starts next weekend, I believe. So lots and lots of things that are going to be hitting the website very soon. We'll start with a Blu-ray release. This came out last week. This is called FM. It came out in 1978. It's directed by John A. Alonzo. This is a really interesting one. I never even heard of this movie before I got wind that Arrow was putting it out on Blu-ray. And it's sort of like I described it like Rock and Roll High School for baby boomers, because it takes place in a radio station, and it's just about this crew at a radio station who they find out that their station has sold a whole bunch of ad time to the US Army, and they get really mad about it, and they end up the manager ends up quitting, and they hold this like protest, and they sort of lock themselves in the radio station. And that's basically the movie. It's more so focused on sort of the day-to-day life and how this station functions. And it's a wacky station. They're a wacky bunch.
It's just a cast of characters.
Yeah. You got Martin Mull in there. He's sort of this like all-star DJ. Women love him. Cleavon Little is also a DJ, and it's pretty fun. The music in this is out of control. I sent you a list of some of the bands in Slack, and I was just like, it's like the most classic rock soundtrack I've ever heard in my life. I mean, it's ridiculous, the bands that are featured on here, and the music is almost nonstop. Like, I can't imagine how much they had to pay for the music for this movie because there's just so much.
Yeah, I wonder how that worked back in the 70s. I wonder if there's, those bands and stuff, if they really charged that much.
I don't know. Maybe they had deals. Like, I don't know what labels all of these bands are on. So maybe a lot of them are on the same label and they just worked out some deal with the label.
Maybe.
But I mean, you have like Steely Dan, Bob Seger, the Steve Miller Band, Foreigner, Tom Petty, Foghat, yeah, Foghat, Boston. Linda Ronstadt she's in it. She actually performs 3 songs in the movie. Jimmy Buffett is in it. He performs a song in the movie.
Oh God!
Tom Petty's in the movie, but he doesn't perform. But they do play his music.
It sounds like a nightmare for me. It sounds like a personal nightmare to me.
Yeah, I mean, to be like, I don't like any of this music for the most part. For the most part, I hate all of the music in it. But at the same time, I thought it was really impressive, and I had fun with the movie. I thought it was a good time. I mean, it reminded me a little bit of Airheads too.
Yeah, that's kind of when you went over the what happens. That was my immediate thought. I was like, oh, Airheads, okay.
Yeah, and the end is really similar to Airheads, where like this huge crowd forms and it turns into like this big party outside the radio station. It's a lot like Airheads. Well, or I should say Airheads is a lot like this.
Airheads came first.
Airheads was released in 1976. It's just, you didn't know it. Anyway, again, that's called FM, and I would give it a light recommend.
I saw Mangoshake.
Ooh, yeah.
From this year, from Terry Chu. And this is a lo-fi coming-of-age film. And when I say lo-fi, I mean, I think I told you, I think the budget on this was like $50. Had to be. Maybe $75. I'm not 100% sure. But it's a low one. But they do a lot with it. And essentially what they do, the big thing is like they kind of, throughout the movie, they're just kind of poking fun at coming-of-age films, and kind of everything's done tongue-in-cheek. There's a lot of pontificating. There's a lot of existential angst. There's a lot of voiceover, that kind of stuff. But it's routinely delivered and presented in perhaps the silliest of ways. Like, a lot of times people are just using ridiculous voices. It's kind of like this mixture of like maturity and like hella immature. And there's like plenty of them screwing up their lines, just breaking character and laughing, and a lot of that stuff. And it really, all it is it takes place over the course of one summer. It's just this big cast of characters, and it seems like the director just got all of his buddies together, and they decided to make a film one year, and they shot it like in chronological order, kind of in piecemeal. And you can see like the actors like aging throughout, and you can see like the video quality and everything getting better as the film progresses. And like, for whatever reason, for me, it worked, because there's just this certain charm to it, and it was so ridiculous, but there's also a lot of creativity to it. A lot of the stuff they do, like the main plot point and where the title comes from is these two guys have a cart that sells mango shakes. That's all they do, and it's the shittiest cart you've ever seen. And they sell mango shakes, and the one guy gets kind of upset and leaves, and then comes back with his own food cart that sells noodles. And he sets up straight across from him the mango shake, and then that's it. And it's just these all these people just doing their thing. And it's tough because if you're like 100% looking at this in terms of like most films, you'd be like, well, it's bad, like the quality is really bad. But at the same time, there's just this DIY sensibility to it that it won me over. So I definitely recommend it.
Yeah, this one's been on my radar. I just haven't had a chance to give it a look yet. And who knows what the release is going to be like for this. I would imagine maybe it'll pop up on Vimeo at some point.
You might like it because a lot of it, I mean, the overall thing is it feels a lot like Slacker, even though I've only seen like 9 minutes of Slacker. But in this case, I didn't turn it off. And they actually do like a Boyhood, like they do reenact a lot of stuff from coming of age films. You'll see it pop up. So it has a definite Linklater feel to it.
Yeah, I was kind of getting that vibe from the trailer. So yeah, I'll have to give this a look as soon as I have some time. That's Mangoshake. I saw Trespassers. This is directed by Orson Oblowitz. This is coming out this week on VOD and in theaters. Previously titled Hell is Where the Home Is.
All right.
Which makes no sense because the central cast of characters are not at home. They are, in fact, staying at like an Airbnb out in the desert. So it wasn't their home to begin with.
Was it hell at least?
Yeah, I guess it was hell.
Okay.
So basically, this is about a group of two couples, both having some relationship issues. They go to this house for like a weekend getaway, do lots of drugs, drink, have sex with each other, and a woman comes to their door and says she needs to use the phone. She's a neighbor. Her car broke down. Played by Fairuza Balk, actually. And some things happen, and there's a home invasion that then occurs by this, what I would assume is some sort of Mexican cartel, and they get killed, and it's so bad. I can't even remotely recommend this movie. It feels xenophobic in a lot of ways. It is not unique or clever or fun. The characters, the four main characters, are so unlikable that you just want them to die so the movie can be over and you don't have to deal with it anymore. I mean, these characters are just awful. And there's just nothing about this movie that is even remotely entertaining or thought-provoking. It's a nothing of a movie. It's poorly scripted, poorly acted. Maybe some of the like gore effects and stuff are decent. Like those are decently done, but the motivations of the people who are breaking into the home, it's just so surface level. Like they're trying to get some photos out of the house, and it's just like, what? There's like no explanation. There's no backstory. You just don't know why any of this is happening. You don't know why you're watching the movie. It's so bad. So Trespassers, stay away from that one. I'll have a review up probably shortly after this show airs.
I watched Sarah Plays a Werewolf. This is currently on Mubi. This is directed by Katharina Weiss, and this was a surprise. I was kind of surprised by this one. Lorraine Balthazar, who plays the main character Sarah, she does an incredible job. I mean, you could watch it just for her performance, but you also have the cinematography and the score work wonderfully in terms of creating this atmosphere that kind of borders on horror, it kind of hints at horror here and there, but it never really goes that route. It's more so just kind of takes up residence in this like this suffering of her kind of dealing with this trauma in her life that she's doesn't really have anyone to talk to. Like she's not able to connect with people in her life or even her family. And it's kind of comes down to also she's in this like theater group where so a lot of it comes into play in terms of performances where she performs for different people and in different aspects of her life, and she ends up working with another student there, and the thing that they're working on kind of gets woven into the story itself. So there's this kind of maneuvering seamlessly through fantasy and reality. But the interesting thing when it does that is it never, because I think with a lot of other filmmakers, you would expect it to go into this route of like, oh, maybe she's mentally ill. Maybe she's losing her grip on reality. But this movie never does that. It never even posits that as a possibility. It kind of her like escaping into her own imagination to kind of get away from the real life stuff. So if you have a movie, I would definitely suggest that. Check it out.
And that Sarah plays a werewolf.
Correct.
I saw Stuber. Yeah, this comes out on Friday. I was not into this. I mean, it's fine. Like it's a perfectly serviceable buddy cop style action comedy. It's directed by Michael Dowse. I will say that on a positive note, the chemistry between Kumail Nanjiani and Dave Bautista is incredible. Like just seeing the two of them bounce jokes off of each other and insults and things, I thought that it worked really well. Like the two of them just seem perfectly suited to play off of one another. And that was great. What wasn't so great was just the script overall. It was pretty bare bones, and I just didn't think a lot of it landed. I didn't find a lot of the comedy to land. There were certainly funny moments, but overall it plays out like a really standard action comedy. You have life lessons in there. You have everybody learning from everybody else, just teachable moments. One of the weird things about the movie is the level of violence in it. It's super violent at times, like gory, violent, and it's played for laughs. But the thing is, it doesn't happen enough for it to be like something that you would expect and you're ready for. So when it does happen, you're just like, oh my God, like where'd that come from? That guy's face just got obliterated. So it feels a little tonally off. So yeah, I have a review for this up on the site. At the end of the day, it's sort of right down the middle for me, maybe slightly above average.
Gotcha.
Stuber.
That's all I got. I can't follow up Stuber. I'm gonna be stuck saying that goddamn word now. I finally got out of the habit of walking around saying runes. Now I'm gonna be saying Stuber.
So I haven't talked about much that I saw at the New York Asian Film Festival aside from last week. And the only one that I'll mention today is one called Dark Figure of Crime. This is a South Korean true story. It's a true crime story about a detective who he makes an arrest on a man who is suspected of killing his girlfriend. And through some shoddy police work, not by the main detective, but by the other people involved in the case, he gets a lighter sentence. He only gets sentenced to 15 years for killing his girlfriend. And while in prison, he requests that the detective come see him. And he tells him that he has many other murders under his belt. He's killed a whole lot of people. So he starts sort of parceling out information about the other murders that he committed, and all the while he's asking for things like money and for sunglasses. He wants some of those transitions lenses, those sweet transitions lenses, and just like food items and stuff like that to make his jail stay a little bit more comfortable. And the detective's obliging him. He's giving him these things, and some of the information he gives is correct, but a lot of it is lies. So the whole movie is about him trying to figure out what this guy is, when he's telling the truth, when he's lying, when he's like telling a half truth, where like he'll say that this murder took place in this area, and maybe it was sort of in that area, but it was like one town over. Really good, man. I was really into this one. It's directed by Kim Tae-goon, and it stars Kim Yun-suk, he was in the movie Chaser, which was quite good. Also, he was also in The Thieves, which I barely remember. I think I enjoyed that one as well. I give it a four stars on Letterboxd. So anyway, Dark Figure of Crime is well worth a look if and when it comes out here in the States.
Nice.
All right, let's take a look at what we have in theaters this week. Got a couple notable ones here. Stuber is probably one of the big ones.
Okay.
Crawl is the other one. This is the Alexander Aja directed alligator movie. Gator movie.
I think I might be seeing this.
I'm pretty excited for it. I don't think it's going to be any good, of course, but
no. But my wife saw this trailer played before Midsommar, and she was like, "Oh, we have to see that." But the best thing is that she keeps referring to it as Crawling. So I think the title for this movie for me is Crawling.
Okay, Crawling.
Anyway,
we also have The Farewell. We have The Art of Self-Defense, Sort of Trust. That is the Lynn Shelton one. Looks pretty funny.
Okay.
With Mark Maron. Rojo. We have Super 30. Darlin. That's the sequel to the Lucky McKee directed movie, The Woman. Wasn't a big fan of that, honestly. And that's it for theaters this week. Let's take a look at what we have on VOD. The Dark Within. We got Ashes. Killer Unicorn. Landing Lake. And then these are all on Tuesday. And then on Friday, we have Miss Arizona, which is looks like a wacky comedy.
Oh, man.
We got Trespassers and Desolate. We got Darlin, Summer Night, Armstrong, which is the documentary. The Mission You Know, The Man You Don't.
Oh.
Neil Armstrong. I mean, didn't they just make a movie about him? Wasn't that the Ryan Gosling one?
I feel like we've had plenty of time to get to know him. Like, if anyone's been interested.
I feel like there's so many.
There's a lot of material out there. So if you don't know who he is by now, like, either you're very young or you don't care.
Yeah, I don't know about that. On Netflix, we have Point Blank. This is an action movie with Frank Grillo and Anthony Mackie. I'll be taking a look at that. Looks like dumb fun, perhaps.
Okay.
Blu-ray this week. Let's see. We have Pet Sematary. This is the 2019 one coming out on Blu-ray. Still haven't seen that yet.
Me either.
I have to get around to it. I'm going to try to fit it in this week. I probably won't be able to.
Wait a little bit. It'll probably be on Netflix.
Yeah. High Life is coming out. This is another one that evaded me. That I was like so excited for this movie too. Like I was like borderline dying to see High Life, and then it comes out and I don't see it.
I think you actually had chances to see it. I'm still waiting, but I think there's this like anticipation fatigue where like I've been waiting to see High Life for so long that I've moved on. Like I have to move on with my life. I'm sorry, High Life.
Yeah, that definitely happens. I think it is available on digital. I think you can get it on VOD at this point. The Love List is coming out on Arrow Video. We'll have a review for this up on the site. This is Catherine Bigelow's feature debut, and it is Willem Dafoe's feature debut as well.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. Willem Dafoe plays a biker in a biker gang, and it's about a biker gang who is they're heading down to Daytona for a big bike convention, big bike race.
Yeah.
And they get stuck in this little Georgia town.
Oh boy.
And they got to deal with the locals.
Oh boy.
It's pretty good. I would definitely recommend checking out The Love List. That's pretty much it for Blu-ray. Do we have any criterions?
We have two, and that's Europa from 1990, directed by Agnieszka Holland. It's got new interviews with director, actor, and the man that the film's loosely based on, new video essay, new translation, all that jazz. And then a reissue of the BRD trilogy from Fassbinder. So you get the Marriage of Maria Braun, Veronica Voss, and Lola. It's a 3-discer.
All right. How about that?
3-disc.
All right. I think that's going to do it for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. You can send us your questions and topics to podcast@filmpulse.net. You can follow us on Twitter @filmpulsenet and @filmpulsekevin. And if you have a minute, take a look at our Patreon page, patreon.com/filmpulse. Consider helping us out by becoming a subscriber. For Kevin Rakestraw, my name's Adam Patterson. We'll see you next week. All right. Midsommar spoilers. What was the thing that you wanted to discuss that was a spoiler?
Her being the Maid Queen? Is that what?
Yeah.
Was that the title?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the Maid Queen? Because I feel like being the Maid Queen is not a good thing.
It doesn't seem like a good thing. I thought like when they were showing the pictures of the past ones, I was like, oh, they're gonna kill the Maid Queen. They're gonna like sacrifice her or something. And It's probably not a good thing to be the Maid Queen. Now, I thought that it was inevitable, right? Like as soon as you knew that the Maid Queen was a thing, like you knew that she was gonna be that, because I mean that's her like taking charge, right? That's her like taking charge of her life, taking charge of her relationship, and conquering this devastating loss that she has had, this like emptiness that she's been feeling.
Yeah.
So I knew that it was going to happen. I thought that the dress I guess it was a dress, the flower dress thing looked very odd to me because it was so big, and it looked like she was just like sort of inside this pile of flowers.
Yes.
So like when she started moving around, like walking around in it, I was like, oh, it's like actually a dress. I thought it was just like, I thought they just buried her in a pile of flowers.
It's like it's like an old Victorian dress with like is it a carriage? I think, where it would have like the big wire frame or whatever. Mm-hmm. So they had her in that, which I just like, that to me was the centerpiece of the movie. Because I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, she's just buried in flowers. That's bizarre. And then she starts moving around. I was like, oh shit, it's actually like a flower dress. That's incredible. But you have this whole wall of May Queens, right? But like no one there is kind of like, hey, I was the May Queen last year. Or
right. That's what made me think that they were for sure going to kill them.
And I think that's kind of like what he was going for, is kind of like this misdirect. But to me, there's because I read the Guide to the Runes from Jeva Lang, and there's that like new life rune. Because that was my first thought too when it was like the Maid Queen. I was like, oh, this is the bad thing. You don't want to be the Maid Queen.
Yeah,
I'm thinking of queens in terms of like all she's gonna do now is produce children.
Right, that's what I thought too. Yeah,
So I think that's what her new life is that she's now she's just going to be popping out babies.
The thing that I don't understand, so they do this every 90 years, but how do they keep the balance? Do they just not worry about keeping the balance every other year?
I think they do it every year. I think is what it comes down to. Because but those guys go to different places and say, "Oh, it happens every 90 years," and the people, the people that get invited are like, "Oh my god, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity."
Oh, okay.
I can't pass this shit up. I gotta go, and then they end up dying, and no one ever gets to find out.
Okay,
so they just keep doing. But I would imagine that someone at some point would stumble across them and be like, "What the fuck are these guys doing out here in the woods? We need to take a look at this shit." Especially when they burned down that whole thing. You would think like some sort of, parks department would be like, "Oh shit, the woods are on fire."
And from what I can tell, the town that it takes place is not too far from Copenhagen. The where is it? Where does it take place? It's a village in a place called Hauslingland, which is that's like a real place in sort of the middle of Sweden.
Yeah.
So it's probably not that far. And they said it was 4 hours. It was a 4-hour drive from Copenhagen. Still, it's not like super remote.
Yeah, that triangle building's putting a lot of smoke up in the air.
And I mean, I guess they probably have a decent amount of cover since they're in that sort of valley and they're surrounded by mountains from the looks of it.
Yeah. I think it's just kind of because I don't know if I really read that anywhere where people were. Oh, I also haven't read that much, to be honest. But speculation on because everyone just kind of stops it there. Like, oh, she's in charge of her life now. She's got that confidence. She's part of a family. And it's like, I don't think she's part of a family. I think she's now going to she's just a breeder now. Because if you think about it, like, in order to get the women of the village to procreate, it's pretty easy to bring in some guys, and you can easily get some guys to sleep with these women. But the guys in the village, you're going to have a May Queen. And you're going to have to force the May Queen.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to happen. It seems like it's very likely that's going to happen.
Yeah, because I can't just imagine that they're like, oh, one outsider will be really nice to. Because, they threw the game of dancing in order to make her win. Because you just had people like throwing each other into each other and falling over.
Yeah. Something to think about.
Yeah.
I just talking about the end, I thought it was, I mean, you knew that it was going to happen with the bear because you saw it in the little pictograph type thing or whatever it was called. So you knew something like that was going to happen. I still thought it was pretty crazy when it did happen.
Mm-hmm.
But just going back to what I thought was the most shocking moment was when the two people jumped off the cliff.
Oh, yeah.
That just, I mean, like my stomach dropped when that happened.
Mm-hmm.
I just was, and like I said, I knew what was going to happen, but it was in how it was. It was in how it was shot, and I mean, I knew something was going to happen from the dinner. Like when they brought them out, I'm like, oh, they're old. There's something's not right here with these two, and I suspected that they were going to be sacrificed in some way, but it was still a really shocking moment to see it on screen.
Yeah.
And the face mask scene, I thought was pretty disturbing.
The face mask.
When he
was wearing his skin.
Yeah. The guy was wearing Will Poulter's face.
Yeah. That was a bit odd. That felt a little out of place. That felt like they were having a little bit of fun. I have a feeling that the elders probably would have frowned on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. A lot of this stuff, you're just like, oh man, like they got some really twisted traditions here. Like, how does this fit in with the festival? Like, skin skin mask wearing, and then like the guy that was hung like upside or not upside down, but he was hung from like the hooks and had all the flowers. I mean that fit with the theme a little bit more, I guess.
Yeah, that one made a little more sense.
Certainly, certainly a Wicker Man vibe.
Oh yeah, and that's what I mean when I was saying like in terms of folk horror. Like right off the bat, I'm like, well, people are gonna get sacrificed because of the crops and all that jazz.
Yeah, but I don't know if that was. I think that Ari Aster probably knew that going into it. Like, I don't know if they were trying to keep it a secret. I mean,
that's what I mean.
You see the trailer, you know that shit's gonna go down. So I don't look at that as any kind of like negative.
I just meant in terms of the ending where, because once they introduced the triangle house and they're like, no one's allowed to go in there. I was like, oh, I hope they don't burn that at the end, because like I've seen that a lot. I've seen that in other movies, and then of course they're just kind of like filling it up with people, and then they light it on fire. It's like, oh, that's it. Like other movies have done that. Couldn't you sacrificed in a different way?
Yeah, that's how they do it. You gotta burn it.
Burn elaborate structures.
Burn that beautiful A-frame.
That was gorgeous. All that work. Why you paint it? Then putting all those fumes in the air.
It was probably some kind of organic based paint.
Made out of dandelions.
Yeah, there you go. Dandelion paint.